Hello, and welcome to the first episode of I Literary Can't Even. I'm Kyra, and I'm here with Paula.
Hello.
And Claire.
Hi.
So, let's let everyone know who we are and what we're all about. You may have hopefully seen our Facebook posts and Twitter posts coming out slowly over the last couple of weeks. Probably feels a bit like we've come out of nowhere. We've been plotting for quite some time though, so this is our first day, and hopefully you will join us on our Facebook page where we have a launch day party going on today from 4 p.m. and some of the best and most cool indie authors will be there doing takeovers. And also we have a nice big prize bundle, so we have prizes from myself, Claire Dugmore, Lisa J. Hovman, KM Lowe, Annalisa Crawford, and so much more. So pop over and see us on facebook.com, I Literary Can't Even. And you will be able to learn more about us as we go along. Okay, so we figured that we're going to keep it lighthearted this week. And we're going to talk about books that we loved that have been turned into movies. So, Paula, do you want to tell us your choice?
Sure. Well, I'm going to do Bridget Jones' Diary. I read the book quite a while ago, and I remember just reading it and thinking, this is such a great book, and I fell in love with the character and thought it would be so cool to see this made into a movie. And when I saw the movie, I initially, when it was actually being previewed, I was so disappointed in the actual person, Renee Zellweger, being portrayed as Bridget, because I had such a different picture of her. I thought she was going to be brunette, and I thought it was going to be totally different. But that's a perfect example of the beauty of reading, that you come up with these an imagination in your mind of who the characters are going to be and how they're going to turn out. And and then when I actually went to see the movie, I have to say they did such an amazing job, and I can't now see anybody else playing Bridget Jones in my mind but Renee Zellweger.
I love her. I thought she was amazing. And also, amazing? But the thing for me, I guess I'm different to you because I saw the movie first and then read the book afterwards, so I didn't have a kind of a prejudgment of what she would be like. So I just went in, saw the movie, and just thought she was perfect.
See, isn't that interesting, though, that how that works? If you see the movie first, then you imagine the characters in the movie to the book. And when you read the book first, it's the opposite. You actually try and make, for me, it's always...
No, carry on, sorry.
What do you think, Claire?
I was going to say, I was first introduced to Harry Potter through the movies. And obviously,
really?
when I read, and when I first read the books, obviously, I saw the movie characters. But then, the longer I was reading the books, they then kind of stopped being the movie characters.
Oh, that's
interesting. Do you get that as well, Kaz? Because you obviously read the books and seen the movies.
I didn't realise you did it that way around. I thought you'd read the books first.
Yeah, no, I saw the movie first. I was completely unaware until I went and saw this movie and was like, oh my god, this is magical, what is this?
So I've known you for 10 years and I had no idea you watched the movie first. That's
strange,
incredible.
Isn't it?
See, we're just learning stuff about each other right now.
Yeah.
No, so for me, it was actually a strange thing because Harry looked right to me. He just looked how I imagined. Ron and Hermione, not so much. Hermione, I thought, was rather too pretty for how Hermione was written in the book. Emma Watson is, she's beautiful. And even as a dorky, what was she, 10, 11 at the time or whatever, she was still just this very cute little thing,
Yeah, they tried with the, making her hair fluffy and stuff.
Right.
But she was still very cute and...
Wasn't Hermione described as having, massive teeth or something?
Yeah, really buck teeth, yeah.
Right, she fixed them later on with a potion or something, when she went to the ball or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, Draco cursed her, didn't he? And made her teeth, massive.
Yeah, and
then when she went to the nurse to get them, fixed, she, slyly said, oh, make them a bit smaller.
I wish I lived at Hogwarts, man.
I know.
My nose would be perfect. Paula, did you say you've seen the Harry Potter movies but not read the books?
You know what? I started the first one with, when I was married, I had stepchildren, and we read the first one together. And I did see the first movie after I had read the book, and it was so magical. I've seen all the movies, I just haven't read all the books.
Okay.
And, I love them. They're all so amazing. Absolutely. They're beautiful. So, I'm a huge fan.
Claire, having read the books as well, Do you think, like, do you have a movie from the Harry Potters that you hate?
I don't know. It's hard. I've learned, especially with like different movie to book adaptations that I watch and stuff, I've really learned to be able to separate the two. So on the whole, there isn't one I really hate, because I just think they're a different medium. You can't have it exactly the same.
I think that's something I learned to do quite late into the movies, because there are a couple of things. I mean, my least favourite movie is Chamber of Secrets. I think it's friggin' boring. Like, I hate it.
So I think the first two films are closest to the books.
I do. I agree with you, but maybe it's because there's not loads of action in Chamber of Secrets, though.
Yeah.
I just found the movie, when I see it's on TV, I'm okay with not watching that one. But the others, Prisoner of Azkaban is my favourite by far.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's favourite, which is weird because there's so much difference.
That's true. And I remember from back in the Chamber of Secrets forum days, I had a friend who loathed that movie so much. I mean, it really irked her. And I was just like, but can you not just see how beautiful it is? It's just so beautiful.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. Even though a lot of the movies do have discrepancies, they are actually really well made.
My only bugbear with... Sorry, Paula, we're probably boring you to death here.
No, not at all. Not at all.
My biggest bugbear with Prisoner of Azkaban was the Marauders map.
Yes.
Why didn't they just take that 1 second to go, by the way, we created that? What, just would have taken a second just to get that line in there, just so that everyone who didn't read the books understood why that was a big deal.
Yeah, they did skim a lot of the stuff with Harry's relationship with Remus Lupin and how Lupin was like best friends with his dad and stuff. They did downplay that compared to the books, which is a shame.
That's what I missed, I think. So let's bring Paula back in, because I think we've lost her a little bit here. We were talking earlier when we were discussing topics today. So Romeo and Juliet was one we came up with as well.
Oh, definitely. I read this in high school, and I just remember being so excited about it. And one of the things that, it was funny, when I was a sophomore in high school, I was taking this literature class, and here I was so excited to get to this book, and unfortunately I got very sick and ended up having to spend the rest of the semester at home. Ugh. And the worst part of it is, this is the one thing I look forward to reading. So my teacher, who is my tutor, brought me, she's like, you know what, we're going to make this fun, because you're going to read the book, and then I'm going to have you watch Romeo and Juliet, on tape. But she said, I want you to read the book first, and then I want you to, then appreciate the movie. So I watched it. After I read it, I watched the older version with Olivia de Havilland, I believe it was, and God, this is the Franco Zeffirelli. That's the original one. Wow. And then I watched, of course, Leo DiCaprio's one recently. And my God, the interpretations are all so different, but they're also beautiful in their own right. And honestly, there's no greater story, no more tragic of a love story when you talk about romance. And it's just, none of them, honestly, are disappointing. I mean, you can't really say that about a lot of remakes where you could say, oh, this was disappointing. If you watch the older one, it's just so, there's something, it gives you chills every time you watch it. It's such a wonderful by saying tragic, but it's definitely wonderful to watch. I don't know if you guys ever saw the older version of it, but you should.
I did see the older version of it at school, but I cannot remember. All I can remember is, like, medieval costuming. I can't remember, like, any details.
See, we didn't read that at our school. We did Macbeth.
But for some weird reason, we did Macbeth when I was about 9 or 10. It's like, why are you teaching children that young Macbeth?
Very young.
Mm-hmm. So but no, we did Romeo and Juliet at secondary school at the height of the Leonardo DiCaprio movie. So that was very much.
That's perfect.
I know.
Like what we studied in class.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. And it's kind of funny. What's really funny about that whole situation is, you just see the older version of it. I mean, this was back in I hate to put dates on this, but when I was in high school in the 80s, I saw it. I know. Yeah, newsflash. No, when I saw that, this was back I think it was made in like the 60s or late 60s. So this was kind of like, oh my God, that's older. But
Yeah.
there was such a sexiness about it, and this is going to surprise everybody. There was no risque behavior or anything, but the way the chemistry there made it so sexy, and yet nobody was stripping down, and it was no risque behavior or anything. Yet it was the way it was so captivating because the characters, there was such a chemistry there, and it just shows you that, you can have all the lewd stuff that's going on in today's movies. Some of the older movies you watch, and there's so much chemistry and words and all, you could lose all the words and you can see a connection that you can't get in some of today's movies because they're so bent on, having to have a lot of skin showing and, it just, I don't know. It's
sensationalizing it.
Yep, exactly. So that's what... But no, you're right, Claire. Sensationalizing it for sure.
I think what you were saying about the chemistry is really important as well. I think that's what makes a really good adaptation. And going back to Harry Potter briefly, the trio, they grew up together.
Mm-hmm.
And in the later films, they have that chemistry because they've been seeing each other on set every year for like 5 years. And I think that's so important in adaptations and can really ruin a good book adaptation if the actors just have no connection.
Absolutely agree with you.
I've read some interesting articles. I think it was Jennifer Lawrence or someone was talking about, I know what it was. Have either of you seen the movie The Notebook with Ryan Gosling and Amy? I think it was...
No.
No.
Well, I'll tell you, Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling in this movie have such amazing chemistry, and I'll tell you the funny part of this. Everybody assumed, oh my God, you guys must have had really great chemistry in real life. Well, the funny story about this is they tell the story that they didn't even really like each other, that kissing each other was awkward, and it was so funny. If you guys get a chance, watch the movie. It's a very touching movie, and it's funny because in real life they said there was no chemistry. They hated even kissing each other, yet as time went on, they really started to like each other, but you would never have known it from the beginning because you could think they had mad chemistry from day one.
That's crazy,
isn't it?
That's some serious acting
in films
skills.
With like good chemistry, the actors are friendly in real life and stuff.
I was just thinking about.
Exactly.
I saw recently.
Kind of interesting.
There was a documentary about the making of Dirty Dancing, and they showed. Did either of you see that?
Oh yes.
They showed the screen test of Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey when they first were paired together to read. You could feel it. Like, you could actually feel the vibes coming off them. It seemed during the movie like they really did have this good chemistry, and they did. But also, there was documented that Patrick Swayze was a bit, not annoyed by her, but kind of, he found her quite hard to work with because she was so young and she kept forgetting her lines and she would giggle a lot. And so the stuff like the scene where they're doing Hungry Eyes and he's moving his arm down and she starts laughing, that's real. That's not acting. That's actually what happened. So that look of irritation on his face is genuine from just being fed up of her messing up.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me that although they had this amazing chemistry to work together, they didn't maybe get on necessarily as well as you would think they did.
That's interesting.
Take some serious acting skills to cover up the fact that you don't like the person you're acting with.
But you can't fake chemistry. I mean, there was it was funny, they have so many of these actors and actresses talking about who they had the most chemistry with, and I'm sure you've read recently, Leo DiCaprio has mad chemistry with Kate Winslet.
Yes.
Yeah, and
they've got into a real nice relationship, haven't they?
They sure have, and you can see why. I mean, look at the Titanic when they were really, you could tell it was not, that wasn't acting. There was definitely something, a special kind of connection there. It's really kind of cool to see that.
Yeah.
So I can see why, we go back to Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. There was something very special between those two.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fighting, but,
definitely.
that's passion too, I suppose.
Yes.
But it is kind of fun, you watch these movies and, I think a lot of these movies, after you read these books, how to recreate that chemistry, and it does take the special type of actors.
It definitely does. Changing track. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, how about actors who have taken on a role in a book adaptation, and then later, like, completely disassociated with it, like the Twilight actors? They've both been really outspoken since the series ended, but they don't like the books.
Tell me more about this, because I don't know too much about this.
Well,
all of them, like the main.
Robert Pattinson's been like really outspoken. That, like,
yes, he has.
He does not like Twilight. He does not like Edward Cullen, and he kind of doesn't want to be associated with it.
But then on the kind of flip side of that, you've got the 50 Shades of Grey actors who are much the same. They're not terribly enthusiastic. I mean, Jamie Dornan particularly has not been terribly enthusiastic about the whole thing.
No, and then he has problems with his female co-star. I'm really sorry, I can't remember her name.
Oh, Dakota Johnson.
Yeah.
Is her name Dakota Johnson? Yes.
Yes. So, yeah. And he has problems with her, doesn't he, as well?
Yes, I believe so.
He does. And to be honest with you, that's a very interesting thing, because after reading those books, to be honest, I was very surprised with that pairing. Dakota Johnson, I don't know if that was the best pairing there. She just seems like, I don't know if that, I mean, you wanted the character to be young and innocent, and she definitely fit that pattern, but I don't know, the chemistry between those two didn't seem very genuine to me. She just kind of seemed a little, I almost want to say hippie. She was kind of like a hippie. Where Anastasia in the books, you kind of see her as like she was all like a, how should I say it? More like she was a college student. She was kind of, I pictured her to be more like, more like a, I'm trying to think of it.
More like Kristen Stewart in Twilight, like.
Yes, exactly. It's so funny you said that. That's exactly who I pictured her to be. Even more like the girl Elle from the movies with like Legally Blonde.
I love that movie so much.
Reese Witherspoonish. Yes, that's exactly who I pictured her to be. More kind of, you know, not as serious as Dakota Johnson portrayed her, to be more, kind of more, to have more personality and much more upbeat and had a, you know, more positive personality. She kind of seemed to be a little more, because Christian Grey in those books is much more doom and gloom. He's a very serious character. And the person who played Anastasia was much more, she was kind of like, she was more dark than I pictured her. I kind of pictured her to be very bubbly and, you know, kind of a college student.
Oh, just a bit more, I guess, a bit more relaxed, maybe not so uptight.
Yes.
See,
yes, exactly.
I think I really liked her.
Did you?
I thought, I wasn't sure I would. When I saw the clips of the movie, I wasn't convinced. But when I watched the whole movie, I really thought she was adorable, and she made me laugh the whole way through. I don't know if she was the perfect choice, but I was okay with her.
Well, see, that's the interesting thing, and that's why it's so cool to get everybody else's opinion. And that's where to me, after reading the books, you have a different mindset, and that's why I'm not a Hollywood, apparently a casting agent.
How do we feel about Jamie Dornan as Christian Grey? Did we like him?
Well, there's a reason I didn't mention him. He was just fine.
Claire, thoughts?
Well, I don't know if I should weigh in on this discussion, because my feelings about the books are, I haven't read them and I haven't seen the movies, and I don't intend to.
I'm sorry, I thought you'd seen the movie.
Well, I can tell you this, and this will give you a good story to crack you up, and it might be your thing after you hear this. So I was in Florida vacationing with my sister and her two kids. They're twins. And my sister never reads. I know I should really not air dirty laundry here, but she doesn't like to read. So she's sitting at the pool, and I'm watching her read a book, and I'm like, this is out of the ordinary. What the hell is she reading? So when I see and I'm playing in the pool with my two, my niece and nephew, and we're having a ball, and I just happened to say casually, what are you reading? You just can't keep, you're like totally engrossed in this. She goes, you will not believe this. I can't put this down. So I'm like, well, what is this book? So she tells me what it is. She's like, you've got to read this. So I picked it up, and I'm like, now I know why she couldn't put it down. So she's like, oh, it's so good. Well, I read it, and I'm not going to lie and say that it was the best literature I ever read. It was definitely interesting, and it kept my attention. But it was something that just cracked me up because of all the things that she doesn't want to read for anything, and this was the thing she decided to read. It cracks me up.
You should offer her some
a positive about those books. It got so many people who wouldn't reading.
Yeah.
And it normalised erotic fiction as well.
And that is...
Erotic fiction was kind of a taboo before that, but now it's like,
that's right.
Well, if women want to read sexy books, they can read sexy books. There's nothing wrong with women doing that, or men,
that's
or whoever.
Right.
No matter
it
how...
made it more mainstream.
Yeah.
I don't feel anything... I didn't like the books, but... I can very much appreciate the fact that she opened a lot of doors for a lot of authors to be able to write, to write whatever they wanted, rather than feeling embarrassed or ashamed by wanting to write erotica. Then she opened up the doors.
Well, and you know what? With that note, I would say that our podcast is to inspire everyone to listen and get everyone to read. How about that?
Yes, definitely read more.
Read everything.
More. And you know what? The other thing, too, is not only to read more, because, there's so many great authors and independent authors that nobody really knows about. And that's pretty much, before I met Kyra, I never knew your books existed. And Claire, same thing. So I feel like there's so many authors out there that are so talented that don't have the big names and big following that we need to get on the map and get people interested in.
I say that's really the point of starting this podcast.
Yeah.
Today we're talking, we're just talking about books, but the intention is to promote indie authors, not just indie authors, but to begin with indie authors, to put some more people on the map, to promote people, and even if it's people that don't really need it, we just want people to listen, to hear the stories of authors that they've heard of and maybe don't know much about and would like to hear more about. I've got a list of about 10 miles long of people I would love on the show, so we're not going to struggle for guests, I think, as long as people are up for it, but that's what we really want to do. We want to keep the indie community alive, we want to keep it positive, we want to keep it happy. We'll talk about the books we love, the authors we love.
There is so much great undiscovered stuff in the indie community, whether it's authors or designers, photographers, models and stuff, and you just need to dig a little bit deeper to find all this wonderful talent.
Did you see? Claire? Do you follow the indie authors and whatever it is, the confessions on Facebook, whatever it's called?
No, I don't. I really should.
It's IABB. I forget what the initials are. That's awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Indie authors. Maybe it's Indie Authors Book Blog or something like that. But I don't know. It's a great thing where you can anonymously put a confession of something that's bugging you, and it's usually about the book world. It's gotten a little bit. It gets a little bit negative sometimes.
Yeah.
But today, someone had posted a confession about how they were sick of seeing the same authors and the same books and the same storylines. And they got a lot of comments like, well, you dig, keep looking. If you're looking at the bestsellers list, then you're going to find a lot of the same thing. That's where they are.
Scratch the surface.
That's it. And a lot of people were recommending their own books, but I was really proud of myself because I was like, no, I'm not going to promote me today. I was like, you should read Annalisa Crawford. Annalisa Crawford is amazing. She should be famous.
Pay it forward.
Yes, that's what we're all about. Paying it forward. Annalisa she blows my mind. Every time I read some of her stuff, I feel inadequate. I look at my own writing and start crying.
I hate that as a writer when you read someone so brilliantly and you're just like, why do I even bother?
But you know what? In fairness, you read their stuff and they probably read your stuff and say the same things. I mean, people, let's face it, writing is one of the hardest things you can do because writers, they are probably the most critical. When you analyze your own work, you're probably the hardest critics.
Definitely true.
Definitely.
So I feel like in a lot of ways when Kyra and I started talking about this and Claire became a part of this podcast, all I could think about is, why me? Because I just do a lousy blog, but I feel like writing is so personal. It's like what you feel is, whatever your passion is. And in some ways, writing a whole book, I can't even imagine doing something and doing it multiple times like both of you have done. It just blows my mind. Maybe someday I'll get to that point. But writing a blog, it gives you such in a way, it gives you such kind of flexibility because you can write whatever, it's like whatever the spirit moves you can write about it, and boom, boom, in like a half hour, an hour, you can churn out something, and you feel like something's off of your chest, which is nice. But working the way you guys do with a novel, I've talked to Kyra several times, and she's been in the middle of a book, and it's like, I'm just revising this and revising that. It's like, it's a very painstaking and a very personal process. So it's like almost birthing a baby. It's your baby that you're basically nurturing.
I've got 2 kids, and I would say writing a book is harder than having kids.
Oh, wow. See, that says a lot. You're the right one to ask. So what are you guys up to as far as new projects for you guys? More books or any other?
I'm still deep in my serial. A new chapter every Tuesday of an age gap romance, so that's going well.
Yes, I'm loving it.
Yay!
Love a bit of rockstar action.
Yes,
that's
indeed.
awesome.
Or ex-rockstar action, but, close enough.
Well, yeah.
I like him.
That's awesome.
Edging towards the fanfiction topic, because I feel like that's something we could maybe cover quickly. So, for people who don't know, Claire and I met a million years ago on a Harry Potter forum. And we met via... No, there you go. We met via the magic of fanfiction. Claire was writing one, I was writing one, and I don't even really know how exactly we stumbled across each other, but we did, and...
I think we had a mutual friend or something that said, "I'll read this person's fanfic."
It could have been something like that, I guess, yeah. I'm not quite sure, because we ended up running in the same circles, didn't we? So
Yeah.
We were both writing Harry Potter stuff, Harry Potter fanfiction, and then Claire introduced me to wrestling, and there was some dabbling in that area. And we just clicked from there, but there was a lot of... you wrote a bunch of fanfiction. You wrote way more than I did, I think. Because you had joint projects too, didn't you, that you were doing?
Yeah.
Claire introduced me to Chris Jericho, not literally. Or actually, she introduced me to my first wrestling love, which was Randy Orton. But Chris Jericho followed quite quickly afterwards.
And we used to have contests of whose wrestler was better.
We did. Remember Frankenman?
Oh, that was the best. See, we should do that with book boyfriends.
Book and Man.
Frankenman. Yes, all the different parts of the hot book guys and meld them together.
We will have to discuss this ready for next time, because I think that's something that we could run with. But the concept basically was we put together the best bits of our favourite wrestlers and made this creation. Yeah. It was hideous, but the idea was good. We thought at the time.
The idea was great. It was just like my bad photoshopping skills.
That's funny.
I still, when I think about that, get the giggles thinking about Frankenman, because he was amazing.
Yes, he was beautiful.
We are very literally created a monster.
No.
Okay, so I'm thinking we should move on to the slightly awkward topic that we have coming up. If you are still with us, thank you very much for staying. The thing is, podcasts incur costs. Patreon allows us to pay for things monthly. Our hosting is taken out monthly. Basically, your Patreon support means that we can continue to be as awesome as we hope to be. So with Patreon, there is a set of rewards. So you can pledge from $1 up to $20, and that's just, so it's just $1 a month if you don't have much but you want to support us. That's awesome. So I'm gonna hand over to Paula and Claire to explain the reward steps for the different Patreon levels.
Okay, well, if you want to become a Patreon member, if it's $1 a month, you go ahead and you can get access to Patreon-only content, or you get a shout-out on the podcast, and you get an opportunity to add input into our future episodes. Isn't that exciting? And if you choose a $5 a month access, you get paperback shout-out, a paperback worth $8, shout-out on the podcast, and an opportunity to also add insight into future episodes.
$5 is an ebook, not a paperback.
Yeah. $5 is an ebook.
I'm sorry. Okay.
It's all right, don't worry. Sorry. It's complicated. Okay, Claire, go for it.
But the $10 a month one is the paperback, and as Paula said, the other things are shout out in the podcast and your input into future episodes. And the $20 a month one, you will get a Skype call from us, as well as the paperback and the shout out and the opportunity to add input. So you want to like get a Skype call from the three of us.
Oh yeah,
Yes, you do.
clearly insane. So you really won that prize.
Yeah.
It's just a simple way to support us. Or if you can't afford to, if you would share it, that would be amazing too. Because we do want to keep going and we want to keep growing and getting better and have much better sound quality so that it doesn't sound tinny or weird and you can't hear us breathing and stuff like that. I think it's okay. I think the equipment we have is okay, but we would definitely like to keep growing. So that's the Patreon.
Okay, Paula, what book to movie adaptation have you seen that has totally sucked?
There you go.
And just did not capture the book at all?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's ones that actually the ending they screwed up, and I'm trying to think of.
Oh, I hate when they do that.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of one recently that I've seen, and I screamed at the ending, and I was like, "You can't do that!" Oh my gosh. Well,
For me, yeah, go on. What were you going to say?
Can you think of one off the top of your head that they ruined the ending for?
I can't think of one where they ruined the ending, but the one I didn't like was Time Traveler's Wife. I really loved that book, but I did not think the movie had the depth that the book did. It just felt, I don't know, a bit lacking. I think it was done too quickly, and obviously it's very hard to cram a massive book into like an hour and a half movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't work for me.
There was another book that I just read. It never was on, it didn't go to the big screen. It was actually just a made-for-TV movie. I don't know if you've ever heard of this book called The Memory Keeper's Daughter. Have you ever heard of this book?
No.
I've heard of it. I've not read it, though.
It's outstanding. It was one of the best books I read. A couple of years ago, I was at Christmas, and my mother-in-law is actually, she was a teacher, and she reads like I do a lot. And she had been sitting and we were talking about books. She's like, "You got to read this book." And I thought, okay, that sounds good. Well, Christmas Eve evening, I go home with this book and I sat up all night and read it. It was that good. It was so
brilliant.
It was and then they put it, Lifetime, one of our TV stations here.
Yeah.
They adapted it to TV. It was good, but you know what? It was so compelling to read that the movie didn't live up to the expectation. It was just such a sad book, but it was so you could see how it happened. I highly recommend it if you guys haven't read it. It's really, really good. It's just a very, very sad story, but it just shows you the mindset of, like, in the 1950s. Basically, the story is about a family, a doctor's wife who has twins. One of the twins ends up has Down syndrome, and the doctor didn't want to tell the wife that the child had Down syndrome. So his nurse goes ahead and basically the wife is told that the baby died, and that's all I'm going to say because I'll ruin the story.
This sounds brilliant.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant. You've got to read it. It's such a great story. It just shows you the difference of attitude with kids today with Down syndrome versus the 50s, where they were looked at as like disposable, and they were looked at as totally damaged and didn't contribute much to society. And it just shows you how, as time has gone on, they are now including, you have all the talk about how they mainstream kids with learning disabilities and with Down syndrome. So it's really interesting to read the different attitudes in the 50s versus what we're doing now. So I thought it was compelling, and it's fascinating. So that was one that I didn't like the ending in the movie as much as I liked the one in the book. So that would be one, I think. And I'm trying to think. I don't know if there was Silence of the Lambs. Yes, Silence of the Lambs. I hated the ending in the book, but I liked it in the movie.
I love the Silence of the Lambs series. I really need to read the books.
Oh, the books were great.
The movies are brilliant.
Yeah, that was really, it was brilliant. And they really, for adapting it from a book to a movie, was brilliant. They did an amazing job. It's a hard one to do because, it was such a page-turner that it was either going to be excellent or it was going to just be awful. I didn't see any, and they did it justice. There was no middle ground for me. It had to be, because it was such a compelling book and there were so many details. They did it justice. They really did a great job. But, you know, I can't think of, like I said, the only thing I can think of is when you see a book and it's like, it didn't end this way, I want a different ending. Or they changed the ending, and, you know, it's like, and I know, listen, you can't, in every book, there's so many pages involved, you can't have a movie, otherwise you'd have an 8-hour movie every time.
Yeah, but you've got to stay true to the, like, core of the movie.
I know. But I wonder, here's a good question for both of you as authors. Let's say you got asked to adapt one of your books to a movie, to make a screenplay. That would be the hardest thing, in my opinion, to have to cut down material of your book. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I think it would be a challenge.
Go on, Kyra.
Well, I don't know. I feel like, especially some of my books are quite short, so it would be quite easy to do. I don't have a lot of extra fluff in my books, so I think I could probably make them work. Without having to lose too much detail. I think. I don't know.
I would just be like, no, you cannot cut anything. The movie will be 47 hours long. It's intended.
Oh my God, that's funny. That
the thing was,
hilarious.
when Claire brought her book to me to read, and I'm like, this is too long, I need to cut it. And I couldn't really find anywhere to cut it, and I was furious because I pride myself on being able to cut stuff out of really long ass books. And I kept looking at there must be something I can do with it. But no, it actually kind of needs to be that length, and all of those details need to be there. There's no moments where you think, well, this is boring and it doesn't need to be here. It all needs to be there. It's very frustrating for me when I can't cut stuff.
Oh my gosh. I think it would, but I think the thing, not only cutting stuff, but then altering the course of your story because you want to adapt it a certain way. I think that would be horrible because you wanted a certain way. You wrote it to be a certain way. Yeah. And they're like, oh, they're going to take liberties and change this character and do that. I don't know if I could be part of seeing that. I would be...
Yeah, that'd be so difficult.
I don't know what the deal is on... If you sell...
I've heard...
Sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry, go on. I was going to say, I've heard a bit of this, actually, with Game of Thrones at the moment, because the TV shows surpass the books.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And now the author's getting a bit like, well... Actually, in my books, these characters are still alive, but the show's killed them off, so it must be really difficult.
That's frustrating.
Yeah.
I was just wondering what the deal is. Like, if you sell the rights to your screenplay of your book or whatever, do they take complete control of it? Do you get a say? Does it depend on the contract? I don't know how it works.
I think it depends on the contract. I think you have to negotiate it because J.K. Rowling was very insistent with the Harry Potter series, wasn't she, that only British actors could be in the film.
That's true.
That's a good thing.
That's very true.
But then there's Joseph Delaney's Spooks books. They're like young adult fantasy horror. And they made a movie out of it, and it's virtually unrecognisable. And it's like, well, what did he do? Just sell the rights and then like have at it, kind of thing.
Then what was the same from the book that you would go, oh, I understand now? Is there anything that made sense?
The characters' names and the basic premise that there's this person, he's kind of like a wizard called Spook, and he hunts like witches and ghosts and stuff, and that was really it. It was so different.
How bizarre. I was thinking about Pretty Little Liars, which was obviously a TV show, and that came from books, and I think they ended up being very, very different from the books too. So I wonder about whether she was the author was thrilled about that, or whether she was just like, I don't care, have my give me the money.
As well did that, didn't it?
Yeah, that's God. It's been ages since I read the books, but I recall there being some deviations there too.
I think there was quite a lot. I didn't read all the books, but I watched all the TV show, and I remember like people saying, well, this is different and this is different.
Yeah. God, it's really been a long time since I read the books. I don't think I read all of them either, because there's really a lot of them, and all the names sound the same, so when you went to buy a new one, you're standing there going, actually, have I got that one, or is this a different one? But I think there was definitely some changes there too. And also Flash Forward, which I mentioned earlier, that was the premise of people blacking out and then skipping ahead to their future was the same. But I believe in the book they skipped maybe something like 10 years or something, but in the TV show it was 6 months. So I can understand for a TV show you've got a shorter timescale to fit everything in as to get to that point. You couldn't drag it out feasibly for 10 years really without having to take massive time leaps. But most of it, a lot of the science stuff was removed from the TV show as opposed to the book, because the book is very science fiction. The TV show was more entertainment. It was more focused on the characters and their relationships. And for me, the book I found much harder to read. I relate much more to relationships with people rather than science fiction. So science. The show for me was the best thing ever. The book, I thought the book was good, but it was much harder for me to relate to than with the TV show. Silence.
What TV shows are you now finding that you love?
Yeah, what about you, Claire? What's your poison right now?
Well, see, I'm in the awkward summer phase where all the shows have ended and I'm counting down the days till October where everything comes back. It's just like, I miss my superhero shows.
Oh, bless your heart.
Walking Dead. It's like,
do you like
Walking
that one?
Dead. Really? I love it, yes.
I've never seen it. I should watch that. That's
brilliant.
A good one.
A lot of people have said it's got really boring now, though. It's got really repetitive.
What, Walking Dead?
Uh-huh.
No, it's good.
You're not feeling it?
It has Negan in it.
Yeah, he is probably something that would make me watch the show. I've never seen it before. But I just noticed
I know who he is.
The more the seasons go on,
everyone knows Negan.
Yeah, he's the dude.
Everybody knows Negan.
I've just noticed people saying more and more as the seasons go on, oh, it's getting really boring now and I'm not going to watch it anymore.
I don't think it is, because it's never been always about the zombies. It's about the people in the situations.
Right.
And it's how Rick and his group react to these new situations. A couple of seasons ago, it was the governor and how he reacted to him. Now it's how he's going to react to Negan and everything that's happened.
Okay.
And that's what's interesting. It's like you said about Flash Forwards. You didn't love it because of the science. You loved it because of the relationships.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same with The Walking Dead. It isn't the zombies that people love. It's the relationships between the characters.
Okay. I should probably... How many seasons are there now? Where are we up to?
Ooh, about to start season 8 in October.
Oh, that's a lot to catch up on. But you did get me to watch Lost, and I absorbed that shit like you wouldn't believe.
Lost was brilliant as well, and that... that was... Although the mystery of the island was compelling... The most compelling thing
awesome.
was the relationship, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I agree.
Have you tried to watch it back? Because it's fucking awful. When you watch it again, it's like, why did I enjoy this? It's weird watching it back.
I am only just now getting over the ending.
I know.
The ending didn't sit right with me at all, and
it was
when
weird.
You come out of a bad relationship and you don't want to think about the person at all. That's how I felt for years.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Flash Forward. Like I'm still sulking to this day that it got cancelled. Yeah. It's not okay with me. Every time I think about it and I try to rewatch it, it makes me cry. Like, why is there no more? I can't watch this because now when I get to the end, I know there's nothing else coming and I can't do it to myself again.
Cancelling good TV shows is a crime.
It is.
Just don't do it.
It happens way too often.
People love these TV shows and need them.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I should maybe look into The Walking Dead then. I feel like I'm a bit late now. I feel like I need something new to start so I can get straight in there and be right on it when it's new.
I'll have to give you a catch-up.
Steve, you've heard people who go up to the actors who play them if they're scoundrels and they go beat them.
Yeah, yes.
Right.
It's so funny. I'm like, oh my
God.
It's just, well, the one who was talking about that is the guy who, he's not alive anymore, but Larry Hagman, who played JR on Dallas.
Oh, I can imagine.
He talks about this old lady who came up to him and just hit him over the arm, and she goes, "You're such a jerk." And he's like, "Ma'am, I'm just playing this guy on TV." And in reality, he was one of the nicest guys ever. He was a truly decent guy. But she's like, "You're such a scoundrel." He goes, "I only play that on TV," which I thought was so funny. It's like, oh my God.
Isn't it funny as well that the ones that play the really horrible jerks are always the nicest guys?
Yeah.
They are.
So true.
They are.
That's why they enjoy it, though, because they get to be mean for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And get
Who
paid
wouldn't
for
like
it.
That?
Yeah.
I know. I would like to do that. That would be fun. You get to do all the things you can't do in real life. You wouldn't do in real life. You could do that on screen and get paid for it. And then go back to being your nice self in real life.
Yeah, it must be kind of cool.
There's something to that. I like that.
Okay, ladies. So we should probably start to wrap up. So before we go, I just want to say thank you for sticking with us if you're still here.